Hello everyone, welcome to Study Room. I'm Kanika and I'm going to be your educator for this chapter in English, Madam Rides the Bus. Let's now look into what the insightful information and interesting learning that this chapter holds for us. Let's get started. Before we know more about the chapter, let's also know a little about the author of this chapter. Valli is the author of this chapter. He was born on 12th November 1920 and he died on 9th November 2006. He was the pseudonym of R.S. Krishnaswamy or Rajavallipuram S. Krishnaswamy. He was a prominent writer, journalist, translator and critic from Tamil Nadu. He started writing at a very young age and had published 25 books by the time he was 30. Valli also wrote under the pseudonyms of Nayandi Bharati and Koranathan. He wrote a total of 75 books in his life. In the year 1978, he was awarded the Sahitya Academy Award for Tamil for his critical work on modern Tamil poetry, Pudhu Kavithayan Thorathanam Valicharyam. In literature, the birth and growth of modern Tamil poetry. Let's now look into the theme of the story. An understanding of the theme of the story is extremely important for our understanding as well as our comprehension for the chapter that we're going to learn and study here about. So, Madam Rides the Bus by Valli is a story that is written in Tamil and translated to English by K.S. Sundaram. The story of an 8-year-old girl named Valli who is fascinated by every small thing. The narrative describes Valli's first adventurous bus drive and how she came to learn about both life and death. Valli through Valli shows us how young kids are curious and the way the narrative describes her insights and perspectives of seeing the world is extremely different from the way the adults see it. The story also shows that how easily children are fascinated by new things that can be extremely small and insignificant. Through the story, we get to see the world from the perspectives and the views of a child. Let's now look into what the chapter Madam Rides the Bus has in store for us. Let's get started. There was a girl named Valli Mai who was called Valli for short. She was 8 years old and very curious about things. Her favorite pastime was standing in the front doorway of her house, watching what was happening in the street outside. There were no playmates of her age on her street, and this was about all she had to do. So, in this particular paragraph, we come across the word curious. Curious means to be interested. To be interested in a lot of things that one might not know or be aware about. There's also a word over here that is used pastime. Pastime here means activities done in free time. There is also another word used over here that is playmates. Playmates refer to people that are usually children, but for Valli, standing at the front door was every bit as enjoyable as any of the elaborate games other children had played. Watching the street gave her many new, unusual experiences. So, Valli also played a variety of games. However, she really enjoyed and had fun but the mere act of standing at the front door, which was quite different from the games that other children played. However, the very act of standing at the front door gave her many new, unusual experiences. So let's see what the word enjoyable means. Enjoyable means to have fun. And new, unusual experiences mean that actions or events that are new and unique. Let's now move ahead. The most fascinating thing of all was the bus that traveled between her village and the nearest town. In this particular part, there is a word fascinating that has been used. Fascinating refers to something that is interesting. The bus that traveled between her village and the nearest town. It passed through her street each hour, once going to the town and once coming back. The sight of the bus, filled each time with a new set of passengers, was a source of unending joy for Valli. So, passengers here refer to people who travel in a bus, train. Let's now move ahead. Day after day, she watched the bus, and gradually, a tiny wish crept into her head and grew there. She wanted to ride on that bus, even if just once. This wish became stronger and stronger until it was an overwhelming desire. So as Valli watched this bus that moved to and back from the town to the city, was also a source of immense anticipation and fascination for her, which means that every time when she would look at the bus, she would realize that she never really sat or traveled in that bus. So eventually, day after day over a period of time, she also developed a wish. Crept into her head means entered her head, wherein she wanted to ride and travel on that bus, even if it was just for once. This particular wish became stronger and stronger until it was an overwhelming desire. Desire means wish. Moving on, Valli would stare wistfully at the people who got on or off the bus when it stopped at the street corner. Wistfully means very strongly. Their faces would kindle in her longings, dreams, and hopes. So, as she would watch those people get on and off the bus, looking at their faces and their very act of getting on and off the bus sort of resembled, they increased a certain sense of her desire that she had to sit and travel in the bus. If one of her friends happened to ride the bus and tried to describe the sights of the town to her, Valli would be too jealous to listen and would shout in English, "Proud, proud." Over here, the word jealous means to envy someone. To envy someone means to feel extremely bad about something or some experience that someone has had which you in fact wanted to have but could not. Therefore, you become jealous of that particular person. And proud, proud means to be extremely egoistic. Egoistic here means that having a certain experience or achievement enable certain people to be extremely egoistic of whatever it is that they have. Therefore, Valli used the word proud. Moving on. Neither she nor her friends understood the meaning of the word. So, neither she nor her friends understood the meaning of the word proud. But all of you now know. But they used it often as a slang expression or disapproval. As a statement here, slang expression of disapproval means to express your anger or sad feeling. Over many days and months, Valli listened carefully to conversations. Conversations means dialogues between her neighbors and people who regularly use the bus. And she also asked a few discreet questions here and there. Discreet as such means unknown and secretive. This way, she picked up various small details about the bus journey. The town was 6 miles from her village. 6 miles means distance. Just how we measure the distance between one place to other in 6 kilometers, 7 kilometers, 8 kilometers. Similarly, the distance here has been measured to be 6 miles as the distance from the village to the town of Valli. The fare was 30 paise one way. So 30 paise is a form of currency which is the lesser evaluation and denominator of rupee. So in the earlier days, people did not use rupee, people used paise. So for instance, 100 paise is equals to 1 rupee. So the fare and the price of the bus ride from one place to the other was 30 paise, which is almost nothing at all. She heard one well-dressed man say, but to Valli, who scarcely saw that much money from one month to the next, it seemed a fortune. Fortune over here as a word means a very high amount of money especially. The trip to the town took 45 minutes. 45 minutes here refers to the time took. On reaching the town, if she stayed in her seat and paid another 30 paise, she could return home on the same bus. This meant that she could take that 1 o'clock afternoon bus, reach the town at 1:45 and be back home by about 2:45. On and on went her thoughts as she calculated and recalculated, planned and replanned. Calculated here means measured. There are several key terms that we have come across in the chapter that we have learned so far. So now let's go through those key terms. Wistfully here means longingly and something to look forward to. Slang is an informal word that is often used to express in a casual manner. Kindle means set aside, which is also means to initiate or start something. Discreet means careful and aware because of the secretive nature of something that is put to question or communicated. Let's now discuss a few questions that we must understand and comprehend to know the chapter better. Before we go on to discuss and answer these questions, let's take a moment and think about all four of these questions. So, let's now get to the part of discussing these questions. Question number 1. What was Valli's favorite pastime? The answer to this could be that Valli's favorite pastime was standing in the front doorway of her house and looking at the street outside. Question number 2. What was a source of unending joy for Valli? What was her strongest desire? The answer to this question could be that the sight of the bus that travelled between her village and the nearest town, filled each time with a new set of passengers, it was a source of unending joy and anticipation for Valli. Her strongest desire was to ride the bus. Let's now look at question number 3. What did Valli find out about the bus journey? How did she find out about these details? The answer to this question could be that Valli found out that the bus journey to the town took around 45 minutes and the one-way fare costed around 30 paise. She listened carefully to the conversation between her neighbors and people who regularly used the bus and asked a few discreet questions here and there. This way, she picked up various small details about the bus journey. Let's now look into the last and the fourth question. What do you think Valli was planning to do? Valli was planning to go to the town and then return back by the same bus. The fare was 30 paise one way and the ride took 45 minutes. In this way, she planned that she would be back by 2:45 p.m. if she took the bus at 1 p.m. Let's now move ahead. Well, one fine spring day, the afternoon bus, just on the point of leaving the village and returning into the main highway, when a small voice was heard shouting, "Stop the bus," and a tiny hand was raised commandingly. Over here, tiny hand refers to the hands of a child. The bus slowed down to a crawl, and the conductor, sticking his head out of the door, said, "Hurry then. Tell whoever it is to come quickly." "It's me," shouted Valli. "I'm the one who has to get on." So, the bus slowed down means the speed of the bus decreased. Once Valli said that it's me, I'm the one who has to get on the bus. So, the bus conductor, upon seeing the tiny voice asking the bus to stop, was extremely surprised to hear that it's not somebody else who has to get on, but it's actually Valli. We get to know this once he asks, "Hurry then, tell whoever it is to come quickly." By now, the bus had come to a stop and the conductor said, "Oh really? You don't say so." "Yes, I simply have to go to town," said Valli, still standing outside the bus, "and here's my money." So, she communicates to the bus conductor saying that she has to go to the town and here's her money for the bus ride and to pay the fare for the bus ride. She showed him some coins. Coins here refer to the money used. Okay, but first you must get on the bus," said the conductor, and he stretched out a hand to help her. Stretched out a hand means to give her his hand to get inside the bus. Never mind, she said, I can get on by myself. You don't have to help me. So, instead of taking the bus conductor's help, Valli says that she doesn't need help and she can get on the bus by herself. The conductor was a jolly sort fond of joking. So, jolly sort fond of joking means someone who is often funny and likes to joke. Oh, please, don't be angry with me. My fine madam, he said. Here, have a seat right up there in front. Everybody move aside, please. Make way for madam. So, he says make way for madam for someone who is as young and small as Valli. He says this because of the independent and strong character of being able to get on the bus all by herself displays. It was the slack time of day and there were only 6 or 7 passengers on the bus. Slack time means a time which is usually dull, and we get to know this because there were only 6 to 7 passengers on the bus. They were all looking at Valli and laughing with the conductor. Valli was overcome with shyness because Valli was being spoken about as a madam, and the moment she entered the bus, the limited people inside the bus along with the passenger laughed at her a bit, and so Valli was made conscious and shy. Avoiding everyone's eyes, she walked quickly to an empty seat and sat down. She wanted to avoid everyone's eyes as she was shy and did not want anyone to look at her, especially the way they were all looking and laughing at her. May we start now, madam? The conductor asked, smiling. Then he blew his whistle twice and the bus moved forward with a roar. It was a new bus. Its outside painted a gleaming white with some green stripes along the side. So the bus was newly painted, and the white color with which it was painted was extremely sparkly and bright with some green stripes. As you can see, the green stripes of this bus. Inside, the overhead bars shone like silver. Directly in front of Valli, above the windshield, there was a beautiful clock. Clock can be seen here from this particular illustration, used to measure time. The seats were soft and luxurious. Luxurious means extremely comfortable. Valli devoured everything with her eyes, but when she started to look outside, she found her view cut off by a canvas blind that covered the lower part of her window. So she stood up on the seat and peered over the blind. Devoured means to look carefully. When she started to look outside, she saw her view was cut off. That is, she could not see, as there was a canvas blind that covered the lower part of the window on the bus. So she looked over the window and stood on the seats to look outside. Peered means looking closely. The bus was now going along the bank of a canal. Canal refers to a water body that is created by humans. The road was very narrow. On one side, there was the canal, and beyond it, palm trees, grassland, distant mountains, and the blue, blue sky. So, narrow means extremely thin. Grassland are basically areas of land covered in grass. On the other side was a deep ditch. A ditch can be a form of a deep valley or hole. And then acres and acres of green land. On the other side was a deep ditch and then acres and acres of green fields. Green, 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 as far as the eye could see. Oh, it was all so wonderful. So, a deep ditch here means a deep valley or a hole, and then acres and acres of green field means vast area or expanse. Suddenly, she was startled by a voice. "Listen, child," said the voice. "You shouldn't stand like that. Sit down." Sitting down, she looked to see who had spoken. It was an elderly man. Elderly man referred to somebody who is old and aged. You can see this from the person standing here, who had honestly been concerned for her, but she was annoyed by his attention. That is, she was angry and impatient. "There's nobody here who's a child," she said haughtily. Haughtily means in an arrogant manner. She then goes on to say, "I've paid my 30 paise like everyone else." The conductor chimed in. "Oh, sir, but this is a very grown-up madam. Do you think a mere girl could pay her fare and travel to the city all alone?" Valli shot an angry glance. An angry glance means to look in a very angry manner at someone. And she said, "I am not a madam. Please remember that. And you have not yet given me my ticket." "I'll remember," the conductor said, mimicking her tone. So, mimicking her tone means to speak in a manner of copying or imitating. Everyone laughed, and gradually Valli too joined in the laughter. The conductor punched a ticket and handed it to her. "Just sit back and make yourself comfortable." "Why should you stand when you have paid for a seat?" "Because I want to," she answered, standing up again. "But if you stand on the seat, you may fall and hurt yourself when the bus makes a sharp turn or hits a bump." A bump can refer to a speed breaker that we see on roads. "That's why we want you to sit down, child." "I'm not a child, I tell you," she said irritably. "I'm 8 years old." So, we now know that Valli is 8 years old. Of course. How stupid of me. 8 years, my. The bus stopped, some new passengers got on, and the conductor got busy for a time. Afraid of losing her seat, Valli finally sat down. An elderly woman refers to an old person, like the one you can see in this illustration, sat beside her. Beside means next to her. "Are you all alone, dear?" she asked Valli as the bus started again. Valli found the woman repulsive. Such big holes she had in her earlobes. So, earlobes are the lower part of your ear, which is often used for getting holes for putting earrings. And such ugly earrings in them. And she could smell the betel nut the woman was chewing and see the betel juice that was threatening to spill over her lips at any moment. Betel nut refers to a form of dry fruit used for making pan. You can see this from the illustration here. Ah, who could be sociable with such a person? Sociable means interactive, friendly. Yes, I'm traveling alone, she answered curtly. And I've got a ticket too. Yes, she's on her way to town, said the conductor, with a 30 paise ticket. Oh, why don't you mind your own business? Said Valli. But she laughed all the same, and the conductor laughed too. But the old woman went on with her drivel. Is it proper for a young person to travel alone? Do you know exactly where you're going in town? What's the street? What's the house number? You needn't bother about me. I can take care of myself, Valli said, turning her face towards the window and staring out. So, as you can see, that the old woman was concerned about Valli and where she was to go about, as she was too young to be traveling alone. However, Valli was extremely sure about herself and the journey on the bus that she had taken, that she told everybody who asked her to mind their own business and not worry about her, as she is old enough to take care of herself and travel all alone by herself. There are a few key terms that we have come across that now we must look and go through. Slack time, when there is not much work, as in at a point of time during a day when there is not a lot of things to do. Mimicking means copying or imitating. You can see this, how this one girl imitates and copies the folding of hands done by the other person. This behavior is called as mimicking or copying. Haughtily means proudly or in an arrogant manner. Repulsive means causing strong dislike or not liking something. You can see this from this illustration here of a woman who doesn't like a certain smell around her. Therefore, it means that she is repulsive of that particular smell. Curtly means showing displeasure or a certain form of disapproval. Drivel means silly nonsense or something wasteful. Let's now come to the point of discussing a few questions that we have come so far in the chapter. Before we go on to answer and discuss them, let's take a moment and pause and think about these questions. Moving forward, let's now look into the first question. Why does the conductor call Valli as Madam? The answer to this question could be that the conductor called Valli as Madam because she behaved like a woman who is grown and mature. She declined his help and was very quick in her answers to the conductor's questions. This made the conductor call her a madam. Why does Valli stand up on the seat? What does she see now? So, Valli wanted to look outside the bus. She found her view blocked by the canvas blind that covered the lower part of the window. In order to have a better view, she took the decision of standing up on the seat and looked over the blind. She saw a canal, palm trees, grassland, distant mountains, green fields, and the sky. Question number 3. What does Valli tell the elderly man when he calls her a child? The answer to this question could be that Valli replied that there was nobody in the bus who was a child. She told him that she had paid her fare of 30 paisa like everyone else. The last and the fourth question. Why didn't Valli want to make friends with the elderly woman? Valli did not wanted to make friends with the elderly woman she met on the bus because she looked quite repulsive and easy to dislike. She had extremely big ear holes and was wearing ugly earrings. Apart from this, she was chewing betel and her mouth was also filled with betel juice. Moving forward. Her first journey was what careful, painstaking, elaborate plans she had to take to make up for it. She had thriftily saved whatever stray coins came her way, resisting every temptation to buy peppermints, toys, balloons, and the like, and finally she had saved a total of 6 paise. So, we can know that saving as an activity from coins can be put through a piggy bank like this. A lot of children her age often use coins and money to buy peppermints, toys, balloons. However, she resisted the temptation, that is, the urge to buy all of those things so that she could save those 30 and 30 paise for her journey to and from in the bus. How difficult it had been, particularly that day at the village fair, but she had resolutely stifled a strong desire to ride the merry-go-round, even though she had the money. After she had enough money saved, her next problem was how to slip out of the house without her mother's knowledge. So, stifled means to resist or control. But she managed this without too much difficulty. So after saving the money, Valli was able to move out of her house to get a ride on the bus without her mother getting to know about it with a lot of ease. Every day after lunch, her mother would nap from about 1 to 4 or so. Valli always used these hours for her excursions. Excursion means adventure activities or any outdoor plans. As she stood looking from the doorway of her house or sometimes even ventured out into the village, today these same hours, that is, the hours when her mom slept and took a nap, it could be used for her first excursion outside the village. The bus rolled on, now cutting across a bare landscape, now rushing through a tiny hamlet or past an odd wayside shop. Sometimes the bus seemed on the point of gobbling up another vehicle that was coming towards them or a pedestrian crossing the road, because the bus was extremely on a high speed. It seemed as though it would thrash or crash into another vehicle, or a pedestrian is somebody, person on the road. It would probably harm them because of its high speed. But lo, somehow it passed on smoothly, leaving all obstacles safely behind. Obstacles means problems. Trees came running towards them, but then stopped as the bus reached them and simply stood there helpless for a moment by the side of the road before rushing in another direction. Suddenly, Valli clapped her hands with glee. Glee here refers to a form of excitement or happiness. A young cow, tail high in the air, was running very fast, right in the middle of the road, right in front of the bus. You could see this from the illustration given below. The bus slowed to a crawl, and the driver sounded his horn loudly again and again. But the more he honked, the more frightened the animal became, and the faster it galloped, always right in front of the bus. Frightened means to be scared or fear something. Somehow, this was very funny to Valli. She laughed and laughed until there were tears in her eyes. Hey lady, haven't you laughed enough? Called the conductor. Better save some for tomorrow. At last, the car moved off the road, and soon the bus came to a railroad crossing. A railroad crossing is a crossing where railway carriers or trains pass by. You can see that this is how loud Valli was laughing. A speck of a train could be seen in the distance, growing bigger and bigger as it drew near. Then it rushed past the crossing gate with a tremendous roar and rattle, shaking the bus. Then the bus went on and passed the train station. Tremendous means a very big or loud. From there, it traversed a busy, well laid out shopping street and turning, entered a wider thoroughfare. Such big, bright looking shops. What glittering displays of clothes and other merchandise. Such big crowds. Merchandise refers to stuff to buy or sell in a market. Such big crowds refers to group of people. Struck dumb with wonder. Gully. Struck dumb with wonder. Struck dumb means to be shocked or surprised. Valli gaped at everything. That is, she saw whatever she could. Then the bus stopped and everyone got off except Valli. Hey, lady, said the conductor, aren't you ready to get off? This is as far as your 30 paise takes you. You can see that gaping as a particular form of expression can be like this in the illustration. No, Valli said, I'm going back on the same bus. She took another 30 paise from her pocket and handed the coins to the conductor. Why? Is something the matter? No, nothing's the matter. I just felt like having a bus ride, that's all. Don't you want to have a look at the sights now that you are here? All by myself? Oh, I'd be much too afraid. Greatly amused by the girl's way of speaking, the conductor said, but you weren't afraid to come on the bus. Amused means to be shocked. Nothing to be afraid of about that, she answered. Well then, why not go to that stall over there and have something to drink? Nothing to be afraid of about that either. Oh, no, I couldn't do that. Well then, let me bring you a cold drink. No, I don't have enough money. Just give me my ticket, that's all. It'll be my treat and not cost you anything. No, no, she said firmly. Please no. The conductor shrugged, and they waited until it was time for the bus to begin the return journey. Again, there weren't many passengers. There are a few key terms that we must keep in mind while learning and comprehending this chapter. Thriftily means spend money carefully or very consciously. Stifled means suppressed. Ventured out means went cautiously or acted in an adventurous way. Thoroughfare means a busy public road. You could see this from the illustration here. Merchandise means things for sale. You can again see from this illustration here clothes, some furniture, some toys, kitchenware, some jewelry, all come in the category of merchandise. Let's now discuss a few questions before we move forward. Before we discuss and answer these questions, let's take a moment and discuss about them. How did Valli save up money for her first journey? Was it easy for her? The answer to this question could be that Valli had very painstakingly saved every stray coins that came her way by resisting every temptation to buy peppermints, toys, balloons, etc. It had been very difficult for her. Even at the village fair, she resisted the temptation to be on the merry-go-round. Thus, she had been able to save 60 paise for her first bus journey. Question number 2. What did Valli see on her way that made her laugh? The answer to this question could be that Valli saw a high in the air, running very fast right in the middle of the road in front of the bus. The driver sounded his horn again and again so that the cow moves away. But the more he honked, the more frightened and scared the animal became, and faster it galloped and ran. This all seemed extremely funny to Valli, and thereupon she laughed and laughed till there were tears in her eyes. Question number 3. Why didn't Valli get off the bus at the bus station? The answer to this question: Valli had planned that she only wanted to ride on the bus. She would spend 30 paise on her fare, go to the town, and then come back by the same bus before her mother woke up. She didn't have even one time or money to go see the town. Question number 4 and the last one. Why didn't Valli want to go to the stall and have a drink? What does this tell you about her? Well, the answer to this question could be that Valli had saved only 60 paise for the trip. She didn't want to waste any money on anything other than her bus ticket, as she had to come back by the same bus at any cost. So, when the conductor suggested and asked her if he could get down and have a drink, a cold drink, she immediately refused. This is what showed that she was an extremely well-mannered and confident girl.